Who or what is God? This is a question not many are willing to answer, whether it's out of blatant disbelief, stark fear, or any other mix of plethora of abstract concepts we know to be emotions. Regardless of affiliation, religion is a man-made concept, as there would be no religion with solely God alone. Since American Aztec beliefs of the god of war and sun to modern monotheistic Christianity, there has always been a war surrounding this topic, both physical and social. Even cynical atheists cannot logically refute the fact that religion not only formulates much of the culture of the world, but is one of the reasons they live life the way they do, even in nuanced, unexpected ways. All of us do certain things, believe certain things, because of this cultural imprint that religion has on us. And so, if you are a writer, you want to use religion as much as you can to establish that culture, that sense of humanity, the humanity of relying on something greater than you because of how small you feel. But why is that an issue? Well, like I said previously, lots and lots of social war. It is hardly ever possible to please humans, even in fictitious subjects. What I find most writers terrified of is,
what if I offend Christians? What if I offend Islamic faiths?
And so on. And people are terrified of bringing real-world things into fiction, and they'd ought to just leave it all out. They are horrified of this, and what I would heed is that you should care about these things. But at the same time, you shouldn't. Writing religion into characters is such a tricky thing, especially if you want a diverse and openly culturally influenced fantasy world. So, an extensive solution? Write your own. If you're asking, why is it worth it? For the same reason the shows we love are worth it. There will be a lot of researching, history, referencing. Do not get me started on all the make-believe terms and names I had to generate for this. It truly is a lot of work. And I'm not going to give you a basic tutorial. That won't help. I can't give you the answer, nor do I claim that I have it. But I'm going to show you what it looks like in action, and how to cut it into a list of requirements to ensure it runs smoothly, and why a good story most certainly needs this. A little tip. Stories and worlds should have so much lore, it makes your head roll. But tip, you'll only be using 15% of it, and here's why. If we take a look at Avatar: The Last Airbender, we see air nomad culture is heavily influenced and based on Tibetan Buddhist traditions. Fire Nation, Japanese, Earth Kingdom, Chinese, and Water Tribes Inuit. And we see this go along with their individual nations' practices, ideas, and personality. They are embedded with the elements of their nations, and symbolically represent the people of the culture. Aang is a carefree person. He passes as he pleases, he moves as he pleases, he travels nomadically wherever the wind takes him. He lives without restrictions and lives freely and playfully. He even glides and fights in this playful manner in an ununiform stance. But he is a raw power, just a force of nature to be reckoned with. And this is a symbolic description of air. Katara is wise, powerful and graceful, but strong, willed and hopeful. She is healing quite literally, and is a symbol of love and longevity, even in the way she outlives most of her loved ones by the end of the series. She fights with fierceness, form, and chaotic control. And these are the symbolic descriptions of water. Toph fights with stability and requires it to fight. She practices stillness, listening, and relying on potential energy. Patient, slow, and extremely structured, she hardly moves, but packs a heavy, devastating punch. Symbolic of Earth. And etc., etc. But okay, me, why is this important? What is the point of all this? Well, the point is that this all stems from the individual religions of each nation, though they aren't spoken of. Though not once do you hear of religion In Avatar: The Last Airbender, you can feel it. It is present within the people. I mean, why else is Sokka and Katara's grandfather so sexist? Culture and religion. Why is Aang a vegetarian? Culture and religion! So now we know why we need it so badly. But how do we make it? Where do we start? Simple. Bam. We start with the story. Long ago, there was no... I need a drink. Hold on. Oh, it's fantastic. Long ago, there was no dusk that came, nor a twilight formed, and the universe was a cold, dark void, with minuscule particles floating in an abyss, moving forward to accomplish nothing. Until this void boomed brightly in a valiant explosion, and life was formed. Particles formed and cooled and became something magnificent. The moon. And the first astronomical body formed inside the Via Lactea galaxy. The first thing there ever was, and from that, the first life. Melanthios Menedora, a man described to be the child of the moon, formed with the rock of the moon itself, and from him was formed the only sustainable planet. Progoti Lunae was the name of this planet. He fell to the world to bestow goodwill to the people who now populated this planet. He shared teachings of how to be an ideal dweller of the universe, how to respect the celestial bodies in the sky from whence they came, and how to reflect the fundaments of life and its source. His people soon built empire in his name, the largest land mass gaining the name Melanthia. But as war, suffering, and pain raged rampant and uncontrolled, and an expanding population, Melanthios could no longer be among the people. Leaving the world with one final gift, he offered a blessing. This blessing is known as a worldwide phenomenon in which some humans are capable of manifesting power and unnatural skills to bring back peace to his fallen empire. This was an excerpt I have written for my mythical religion known as Menedorism. Just as we see in The Last Airbender, this has mixed and influenced elements and a core, that being this time, instead of an element of nature, astronomy. Christianity as well as Hinduism, and also some scientific elements can be found within this. That is why religious beginnings are so simple to write, because it can be anything. Anything with nature, anything metaphorical, anything that may sound sometimes downright impossible, because no one is to judge how a culture perceives the world they live in. Not only will this make it seem more believable, but as you write and sample from real-world occurrences, you'll gain a fairly good understanding of other people and their perspectives, and in turn, will all around make you a better, more cognizant writer. Now, this can't be it, can it? Definitely not. There's a lot more. Way too much. This was the easy part. You can add as little or as much as you want. That's the art of world building. But the basic list should consist of our story or description, phenomena, which isn't limited to fantastical abilities. A good example would be the wood sprites from Avatar, the blue one from the Tree of Souls. We'll also need afterlife beliefs, worship services, and other details that you can think of. This is my format. Menedorism is the worship of the god of the moon and the glorification of all things concerning. The citydom of Melanthia shows deep appreciation of the stars, and most importantly, the feminine concept of the moon, her fairness, and all regard the celestials, which are all cosmic bodies and entities, as elders among them. Phenomenon include 3 gifts thought to be bestowed to the people by Menedora himself. The creation of Progoti Lunae, the only sustainable planet in the Via Lactea galaxy. The bestowal of Essenza di Lune, or colloquially Senza, a natural element of great power which smooths the flow of life and balance, unexplained and unconstrained by modern science. And lastly, Melanthios' blessing, which is known as the phenomenon in which some humans are capable of manifesting powers and unnatural skills, which some believe are meant to protect others. Other people believe this is to be a wrong, a blight on the world, and a punishment. And so, by some, it is known as Melanthios' curse. Now what's next? Afterlife. There's not a definite afterlife in their beliefs. However, depending on your behavior as a follower, your matter and chemicals may return from whence they came, and you'd be rebirthed as a cosmic entity and join the elders. Those who did not and brought forth destruction, sorrow, and negativity will spend their afterlife as a very large star, only to quickly burn out and drift as a lifeless core in a graveyard of stars, floating on lifelessly with no impact or importance. But how do they accomplish being a proper follower? Worship services. The Church of Menadora holds its services at night in moon temples. Despite global pollution hiding the stars from sight for a century now, they all gather, eat and drink, and listen to the teachings of Melanthios, all the while giving offerings to their god. Deep, cool-colored robes are worn during these ceremonies, and often in general by the Luars, a hierarchical class thought to be closer to Melanthios in spirit. Now, opposite of Luars are known as Looms. Looms are those who are descendants of the original civilization of Melanthia. They practice a slightly similar religion, glorifying the sun and practicing Solarianism by worshipping the god Helios Helentra, centuries long before the skies clouded over. And so now, breaking from my script, I've used examples of my own unorganized writings and my ideas, my very basic borderline ideas, as hopefully a useful guide or an explanation, but overall to prove that this is essentially all it takes to form a mythical religion. But at the same time, don't you see how much there is? There's just so much complexity for one small piece, which, mind you, will occupy only 5% of this story. And so, to answer our question of who or what is God, it's a part of humanity. It's something we use, something that influences us and makes us who we are, and at the same time, it also influences our writing, because our writing is an extension of who we are. Every single fiction that has ever existed is based on humans. And one of the best ways of writing a fictional subject is to look at the real world and to just pull from it. And that's all art is. World building is an art, a very difficult, painful art. But God, am I glad to share it. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just me rambling, sharing some of my own writing, and hopefully being able to convey to you guys just how difficult it is, but at the same time, I want to encourage people to do this more often. It's a very fun, rewarding process, and maybe this helped someone who's looking for how to write their own fantasy world. You know, maybe you're stuck, maybe you don't really know where to start, and seeing someone else do it in front of you might give you that head start and boost of inspiration you need, along with the accompanying visuals. So, have a wonderful day, night, year, day in the century, day in the year, 2020, 20 something, 2023, 22. It doesn't matter, time doesn't exist.